Mass exodus from blue states to red states, and from blue Twitter to red Gettr. In this video, I'll explore the number of people making the move geographically and digitally. I'll also examine Joe Rogan's Gettr account announcement and the dramatic shift that ensued. Welcome to Old Foundry Media. I'm your host, the Crane Man. Let's fire it up. I'll begin this video by looking at this graphical representation of the number of people who have moved from red states to blue states. As you can see, notoriously liberal California and New York lost the most residents, and for the most part, they lost them to shamelessly red states like Florida and Texas. Of course, it's not hard to understand why this massive shift is occurring. One only need look at the policies of the states involved. Mandates and lockdowns are being left behind for freedom-loving states that honor their residents' personal responsibility to run their lives and assume what risks they may. To find the most accurate data, I went to the census.gov website, where you can see much of the same thing, except this data is in the form of tables instead of graphs. While the numbers between the representations are not exactly consistent, they tell the same story. People are leaving states run by Democrats in droves and fleeing to states run by Republicans. But that's not what this video is about. It's about a similar occurrence that happened in the digital world yesterday. Here you can see that Twitter decided to permanently suspend the account of Dr. Robert Malone, who I'm pretty sure holds a patent for contributing to the underlying mRNA vaccine technology that the COVID vaccines are built from. And all because he said something that had not been approved for distribution by the liberal hegemony. Dr. Malone went on to Joe Rogan's podcast, and his interview is an episode I would highly recommend everyone listen to. And here you can see Twitter permanently suspended sitting Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She posted data from the CDC's VAERS system, but that was also not something that was approved for distribution by the liberal hegemony, so off she goes. Now, if I was a person who lived in her district, and Twitter thought it had the right to supersede the will of the electorate in my district by limiting her ability to speak in what could be argued to be one of America's most central political forums, I would have a big problem with that. I might even join Joe Kent in calling for the breakup of big tech. He tweets, "Big tech must be broken up. The regime's narrative is eroding, and they are desperate, going after elected officials like Marjorie Taylor Greene and medical officials like Dr. Robert Malone. Every infringement the federal government wants to enact but can't execute quickly will be done via big tech. We must act now." Kurt Schlichter responded to the banning of Marjorie Taylor Greene by tweeting, "The banning of Marjorie Taylor Greene will be a key moment in the future of social media. It has made regulation inevitable and destroyed any residual, but my corporations have a right to arguments." David Axelrod, a former advisor of President Obama, tweeted, "I'm uneasy about banning anyone from social media platforms. But I'm even more uneasy about dime store demagogues who use those platforms to spread misleading nonsense that could cost people their lives." So sharing data from the CDC's VAERS system is misleading nonsense. And please tell us, David, why? Why does the CDC have such numbers? Do you agree with Joe Kent? Do you agree with Mr. Schlichter? Do you agree with Mr. Axelrod? Leave us a comment. Explain who you agree with and why you agree with them. This is where the big news comes in. Joe Rogan tweets out to join him on Gettr. Over on his Gettr account, Rogan posts, "Just in case ish over at Twitter gets even dumber, I'm here now as well. Rejoice." Rogan is a big name, perhaps the biggest name in the political commentary world. His episode with Dr. Peter McCullough was watched over 40 million times last I checked. So when Joe Rogan announced he joined Gettr, many rushed to follow suit. Like Brett Weinstein, who's former professor at the infamous Evergreen College and host of the Dark Horse podcast. And Jeremy of The Quartering, whose YouTube channel has over 1 million subs and who already supports various other alt-tech platforms. Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change, and perhaps more well known for being a co-host on the popular Timcast IRL podcast. Dave Rubin of The Rubin Report, who recently became a Florida man after moving out of California. Elijah Schaefer of The Blaze and host of the You Are Here podcast. And all these people joined folks who were already on Gettr, like Steve Bannon, former advisor to President Trump and host of the War Room Pandemic podcast, and Scott Pressler, a famous activist who travels America cleaning up communities and getting out the vote. Also, Jack Posobiec, host of the Human Events Daily podcast and Timcast IRL frequenter. James O'Keefe is also on Gettr. He's the founder of Project Veritas, famous for his self-proclaimed guerrilla journalism. And of course, you can find the band Dr. Robert Malone and the band Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene on Gettr. As we will see in this press release, Gettr saw a tremendous surge in users during this migration. The release says, Gettr, the free speech social media platform which fights cancel culture, welcomed 171,629 new users on Sunday, the biggest surge in a single day signups since launching on July 4th, after podcaster Joe Rogan and dozens of other big names joined the platform amid a flesh fury of big tech censorship. Activist Andy Ngo, political commentator Dave Rubin, comedian Larry the Cable Guy, author Jordan B. Peterson, columnist Kurt Schlichter, Carol Markowitz, Selena Zito, and Josh Hammer, former NBA player and podcaster Andrew Bogut, British rapper Zuby, UFC fighter Tim Kennedy, and MMA fighter James Webb, and TV host Jedediah Bila have also migrated to Gettr in recent days. Rogan's decision to join Gettr came on the same day Twitter permanently banned the personal account of U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, citing multiple violations of the social media giant's COVID-19 policies, and YouTube censored Rogan's interview with Dr. Robert Malone, a contributor to mRNA vaccine technology, who was also deplatformed by Twitter for his remarks on the COVID-19 vaccine before joining Gettr on December 29th. Big tech is censoring itself into irrelevance. It's clear deplatforming President Trump was just the beginning in their war on free speech, and now they're coming for anyone who doesn't conform to their worldview, said Gettr Chief Executive Officer Jason Miller. I'll finish this video with a meme and a couple of phrases to be considered. The meme reads, I don't always lose 500,000 followers on Twitter, but when I do, I gain 50 million views on Rogan. And it's a photo of Dr. Robert Malone's face, pasted on the Dos Equis man's body. And the phrases to consider are first, better the enemy you know. And second, when you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. Let me know in the comments if you have tried Gettr and what you think of it, or if there are other platforms you would advocate for, and why. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. This is the Crane Man, punching out.